Welcome back.
We have these buttons for the audience. We have these buttons that are pressed that say that we're muted or unmuted by Joanna, our production person, which I think my wife would love to do to me. Just have to mute me, unmute me, or see me or not see me. Jane, how are you?
Good. Hi.
Hello, Jane.
Hi.
So just some technical reminders here. Our chat box is disabled, but you can submit any questions in the Q&A box and we'll try to answer them live. If not, we'll try to answer them during the rest of the event. And please don't be shy to all our attendees. We love questions. Jane, over to you.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Tell us who you are. What are you doing?
I will. I'll be happy to do that. I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much to all the Transformers for inviting me to participate. I'm really glad to be here and see some familiar faces. My name is Jane Palmer, and I am the founder and CEO of Nature Coatings. Nature Coatings transforms wood waste into high-performing Black pigments. So our pigment is really a direct replacement for anywhere petroleum carbon black pigment is being used. I'm in my home today and I'm looking around and I can see carbon black everywhere. You know, it's printed on my textiles, it's coloring the keys on my computer, it's on my phone case, food packaging, you know, my notes. So we're really finding that our pigment is a direct replacement for really anywhere petroleum carbon black is being used. So I wanted to give you a little bit of history and background on who I am and just where Nature Coatings came from. So I've been working in pigments and dyes for almost 20 years, and I love it. I also have multiple degrees in education and textiles, so I'm definitely in deep and really love it. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. The business I had before Nature Coatings was a dye house based in Los Angeles, and we specialized in using only plant and insect-based dyes that were already on the market. And these are the dyes that have been around for thousands of years. They were found in King Tut's tomb. You know, they've been used by every ancient civilization. They're beautiful, they're romantic, they have a great story, but they're really hard to scale in our industry because they're expensive, they fade really quickly, they use a lot of water, and it's really hard to get the same shade over and over and over again. So at the same time, we had a really successful business. You know, we had over 100 repeat customers. I could see there was a real demand for something natural or non-petroleum based in terms of dyes and pigments. But I decided that this business was not the business that I could really scale to create the type of impact that I was looking for. So I was really fortunate to be able to sell the business to an existing customer and moved on basically. And I started from scratch. So sort of joke, you know, being half ambitious, half crazy, I wanted to develop my own bio-based pigment. And that's what I set out to do. I really wanted to be able to create something that was scalable, that could create a really large impact in our industry. And so the first thing I did is I went out and I talked to 40 different experts in the field. I talked to the lead chemist at Nike and the former senior vice president at Levi's, a regulations person at Pottery Barn, a home store, somebody at Blue Sign, and a bunch of other people, just to really get a sense of how I could create something from the bottom up that would be adopted in our industry. Because adoption's hard with something new. And basically what I learned is that it's all about cost, of course, that's the number one thing. The second thing is about making it cost competitive to what's already on the market. The second thing was about performance. It needs to perform as well or better than what's already on the market. Third, it needs to work within existing supply chains and processes and equipment, you know, so that there's no upfront money needed at a mill to use it. And then for me, what was really important was to make it bio-based, or more specifically, non-petroleum based, because I just didn't think it made any sense. I don't think it makes any sense to use petroleum for color. So wood waste is the new black. So I've always had a little obsession with trash, garbage and waste. First, I'm a little, you know, it's upsetting to me. I'm emotionally attached to it because so much waste is created every day. And even by myself, somebody who's really conscious of how much stuff I have, I still create more waste than I would expect to. Secondly, I just feel like there's something we can do with all this waste that we create as people on the planet. So when I started this project, I started thinking about trash, and particularly agricultural waste, because I wanted this pigment to be bio-based. And I finally settled on wood waste after a lot of experimenting with different types of biomaterials. And wood waste is a really great source material for us because it's in abundance. You know, there's over 50 million tons of wood waste created every year in the US alone. I could get it from sustainable sources. I certainly did not want to, you know, cut down rainforests for pigment or anything crazy like that. And it's a real waste product. There's not a lot to do with the little tiny branches at the tops of trees, or bark or things like that. So our pigment is created in a closed loop manufacturing system. The main emission is steam, and the steam is captured and used to power the equipment. So it's a really clean process. In comparison, petroleum carbon black is made by combustion. You know, it's made by literally burning fossil fuels. And what that means is there's potential to release millions of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere every year. And by switching to our pigment, we can prevent that CO2 going into the air. Additionally, petroleum carbon black inherently contains carcinogens. That's just what it's made out of, or these little structures. And not only is that terrible, you know, nobody wants cancer, that's for sure. But they're also getting more and more regulated in places like Europe. And our pigment inherently does not have any detectable carcinogens. So it's healthier for us as people, and it's also better for the environment, and it can also stay ahead of different regulations. So once we had the pigment, we had to work on stabilizing it within a dispersion, or, you know, concentrated ink, basically. And this was an immense challenge for us. We were told, for example, that it was not possible to create a dispersion with our pigment and that we would never be able to achieve a true color black, but we did it. I mean, we did over 1,000 different formulations while simultaneously working on the manufacturing of the pigment to create specific characteristics, and then working with different dispersants and formulations until we got multiple formulas that work across different applications. So the whole goal was to make this really easy to adopt at the mill. And basically, at this point, we have a dispersion where it's as easy as grabbing our pigment off the shelf versus the petroleum option and using it at the mill. Our pigment is also high performing. It doesn't fade in the sun. It's not affected by sweat or pH or humidity. And we've reached a really beautiful true black color that leans towards blue. And the pigment, that our dispersions are suitable for multiple applications as well. So for, you know, my background is mostly in textiles. So we have dispersions for screen printing, inkjet, rotary printing, different types of coating, foam, knife, pad, spray, on fabrics, leather, non-leathers, and much more. So our first product to market is screen printing ink. That was a really easy place to start because it's really quick to test and it's easy to adopt. This is an image of our very first print ever made, which is very exciting. And it worked. I mean, the most amazing part to me is that it actually really works. It really does what it says what it's going to do, which is create a beautiful, rich black color using wood waste. I'm happy to say that we finished our first pilot. We started working with a major French luxury brand last summer. And during the last Transformers Catalyst event, they were in production, and garments with our ink are now on shelves worldwide. So that was a really, what's the right word? You know, that was a hurdle and really a big milestone for us to cross, because now we know it can really work in production and it meets the quality standards of a luxury brand, which means that it will meet the quality standards, hopefully, for most brands. All right, so new developments since the last fall. So, you know, we were, of course, affected by the virus, as I'm sure everybody here was in some shape or form. And, you know, some parts were really hard. Some of our dispersion manufacturing partners completely shut down. I'm based in Los Angeles, where we just got shut down again yesterday. We've been working from home. Things really slowed down, but we also had a bunch of silver linings, which I'm really grateful for. We had access to our lab, for example, and we were able to continue development and make new dispersions and continue to refine our pigment manufacturing process. We were able to work with our partners to scale the pigment manufacturing facility, and this is an image of our pigment manufacturing facility here in the US. And with this facility, we will be able to supply substantial volumes, you know, pretty much any amount that's needed, with a really high level of quality control. In addition, I think what's really exciting for me on a personal level is that this facility is located within a few miles of our wood waste source. So we've been able to reduce the footprint and really create a plant close by. And this plant is a model for where we'd like to go in the future. We'd like to be able to set up manufacturing sites for the pigment close to wherever the pigment is being used. And this plant is a pilot for that. In addition to this, we were really fortunate to be able to have continued support from our investors, and we're also able to grow our team. Okay, so this is the inside of the plant, and that's some of our pigment. And the thing about petroleum carbon black pigment is that it's cheap, you know, it's really, really cheap. So in order for us to get to the right price, we need to come to market at a large scale. And we also, after we come to market at a large scale, we need to be able to scale from there very quickly. But we know this, and we've set up our business to be able to do this. But you know, that also means we need partners, and we have a lot of partners even from last Catalyst, which I was very fortunate to be able to attend and participate in. We met several people. I saw Jordan's here on another panel. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm wearing a Boyish t-shirt. This is printed with our Boyish jeans. This is printed with our pigment, and we met him, Jordan and Boyish, at the last Catalyst. We also met AGI Mills in Pakistan and many others that we've been working with. So what I can ask of the participants today is, we would love to talk to you if you're interested and have you try our pigment and hopefully adopt it. So yeah, if you are interested in learning more, please be in touch. I would love to hear from you, and I look forward to any questions that you might have. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have questions, Marzia.
Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to say also, Andrew, that it's great that this space is not just for people to learn, but it's also to exchange contacts and establish new collaborations. I think it's amazing. And yeah, so to jump onto the questions, we have Jane, for you. How does this product respond to laundry processes used for denim?
That's a great question. So we are providing the pigment itself in a dispersion, and then that dispersion goes into existing formulations that one might already be using at the mill. So it's going to have the same wash fastness characteristics as one would have with using a petroleum-based pigment, because we're not providing the binder. That's something that we would like to grow into, but currently we're providing the pigment. So it would perform the same.
Yeah, and we have another question. Will you be working on other colors in the future?
We are going for black. We're going to be the experts in black. And as I was mentioning before, black is everywhere. Carbon black, petroleum carbon black is the most produced pigment in the world, and it's used in everything. And so for us, for me personally, to create the largest impact possible, we want to try to replace all of that. So, those are all the things that we touch, like different types of ink, our phone cases, food packaging, textiles, all of that. So we're gonna, that's the goal.
We had that discussion previously about black denim and what a great size market it is.
Yes, exactly.
Denim is being used and the opportunity for denim mills to use this.
Yes, and in fact, a new development is we've been working with success on coating warp yarns, denim warp yarns, with a foam pigment application process that's normally used for indigo, that can significantly reduce water, but also just coat the warp yarns instead of the fabric in total to create black denim.
And the black should be blacker than normally.
The black is blacker than normal, exactly. And I think there's some really interesting advantages to doing a pigment coating on a warp yarn, because the wash down effects will be more like indigo instead of a sulfur dye that is really hard to achieve a wash down effect with. So I think there's a lot of interesting opportunity there, and we'd love to talk to partners about working on that.
Marzia, you have more questions, I think.
Yeah, we have actually. They keep coming in, so that's great. So how does Nature Coatings Black perform under garment testing? So comparison of crocking to regular petroleum black.
So it's, again, it's kind of the same idea that we're providing the pigment, and whatever the binder is being used, it's going to perform the same as the petroleum option. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but basically the short answer, if anybody wants to have a deeper discussion, please get in touch with me, but the short answer is it's going to perform the same. I think what's an advantage to our pigment is that it's a true black, and it doesn't so it's more blue than brown. You know, sometimes blacks can get into weird shades that are considered unattractive, and ours tends to lean towards blue, which is more desirable. And it doesn't change due to sweat or humidity or different types of pH. So in those sense, it's very high performing. And in terms of being on a garment wash or crocking, it's going to perform the same as the petroleum option.
Right. And we have a question from Alice, actually two from Alice. I think she's interested in which mills you're currently working with, and also if you work with independent designers and small projects. I'm guessing she has and one of those.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, and maybe, yeah, she's interested if you are working with small projects, and maybe you can answer in the box in the Q&A and exchange contacts with Alice if you're interested.
A question about which mills is interesting to our audience. If there's any
Sure.
people can go to that are familiar with your product.
Sure, yeah. So we've been testing with a lot of the major mills in the world over the last year. And so what I do want to say is that because of the virus, our commercial launch has been delayed, but we are testing with a lot of mills. So I don't actually know, because we have NDAs with them, I don't know if I'm actually allowed to list them, but I will say they're major ones in Pakistan, India, China, Europe, and the United States. So
that would cover it.
Yep.
I think we have 2 more minutes for one more question.
So yes, we are.
Sorry?
We have 2 more minutes.
Perfect.
And could it be used directly with screen techniques? I guess screen printing techniques. Yes?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That one is ready to go.
And another one, so we have, can the pigment only be used in fabric stage or also laundry stage?
Oh, as a pigment wash? Yes, so it can also be used as a pigment dye.
Great. Well, I think we're ready to, and there is a question actually around how would this be applied into fabric at the mill level as silver top bottom on indigo dyeing or as an over dye? So
for it, well, it depends on the type of process that we would move forward with. So it can be used as a coating on fabric, so spray, so it would, you know, that it would be on top. I think the foam dyeing of the warp yarns could potentially be an over dye over indigo or sulfur dyes. I'm a little.
It's got to be coated. Honestly, I know the technology. It has to be coated on.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Fair enough there, yes.
And I know you can't answer the questions because of the NDAs that you have with the mills. So I get that. So
yeah,
people out there are NDAs in place, and that's why Jane can't describe it in detail.
I can't, but if anybody would like to get to me, reach out to me individually, I'm very happy to work with you and share that information more individually and make it work.
But I just want to end this with one really salient and important point. The whole idea of our business future is to get rid of petroleum products, whether it's in chemistry, whether it's in plastics, and of course in dyes. So this is an outstanding achievement to get a color that doesn't use petrochemicals. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Really appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Jane.